Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting for June 8th, 2023, regular meeting of the Kern County Planning Commission. Now call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Ashley?
Here.
Commissioner Dunbar? Commissioner Judge?
Here.
Commissioner Oliver?
Here.
Commissioner Skidmore? Here. Mr. Hall? Mr. Murphy?
Here. And for the record, we have Brian Van Wyk, who is filling in for Mr. Hall this evening.
Hello, good evening.
Ms. Hoover? Here. Ms. Simon? Here.
Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is commission member announcement or reports. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is approval of the minutes from our May 25th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting. I would entertain a motion.
A motion?
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, since we have no cases withdrawn or requests for continuance, we're going to move to our consent agenda. Mr. Murphy, will you cover that for us, please?
I will. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. This evening we have 3 items that are on the consent calendar. These are items scheduled before your Commission, which are being recommended for approval by the staff, and the applicant has been informed of any special conditions and has no objection. The hearing on these items may be expedited if no member of the Commission or audiences wish to comment or ask any questions on the case. Again, we have 3 items that are on the consent calendar this evening. The first is case number 2. This is conditional use permit number 76, map 142, Williamson Act cancellation number 2302. Also in map 142, our applicant is Frank Rod by Barbara Leora. This project is located on the west side of South H Street in unincorporated Bakersfield at 15329 South H. The specific request before your Commission is a conditional use permit for an event venue of an approximately 19.64 acre parcel that is zoned A. The staff recommendation is to advise your Commission to recommend to the Board of Supervisors to approve the conditional use permit for a duration of 3 years to expire on June 8, 2026 in accordance with the recommended conditions and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the draft resolution, and then advise your Commission to recommend the Board of Supervisors to approve cancellation number 2302 as requested, subject to the payment of the cancellation fee, and direct clerk of the board to issue a tentative certificate of cancellation and issue a certificate of cancellation subject to the payment of that fee, all subject to the written verification from the Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Department that confirms the applicant is in compliance with all other conditions contained in the tentative certificate of cancellation and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the draft resolution. The next item on consent this evening is case number 3. This is CUP 13, map 16534. Our applicant is Jamie Larson. This project is located at 19702 Vincent Street in the Tehachapi area. The specific request is a conditional use permit proposing the retention of 2 8 by 40 foot cargo containers as residential accessory uses on a parcel totaling an approximately 10.17 acres that is zoned E5 RS. The staff recommendation is to approve conditional use permit in accordance with the recommended conditions and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the draft resolution. And the final case on consent this evening is case number 5. This is an extension of time for vesting tentative track map 6545. Our applicant is Lee Pulzer. This project is located on the east of Holt Avenue, approximately 1/2 mile south of Oak Creek Road within the Mojave area. The specific request is an extension of time for a period of 3 years for vesting tentative track map 6545, which authorized the division of a 39.25 acre site into 159 parcels for residential use and 74,250 square foot net sump lot. That project included 4 limited design variations, authorizing blocks less than 2 tiers of lots wide, double frontage lots, non-radial and non-right angle lot lines, and a key reverse corner lot. The staff recommendation is to approve a 3-year extension of time from May 3rd, 2023 to May 3rd, 2026, all subject to the original conditions of approval, with the inclusion of an additional condition requiring the payment of traffic impact fees in effect at the time any building permits are applied for on any lot within the recorded map or phase. Adopt the original findings as set forth in the attached resolution number 17107 with the inclusion of the recommended findings. That completes the reading of the items on consent.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Is there any member of the public that would like to remove any of these items from the consent agenda and hear them in the regular order? Okay, seeing none. Any member of the commission that would like to remove one of these and hear it in its regular order? Okay, seeing none, we'll move forward for...
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Is my understanding, I just want to make sure, that there was a member of the audience that came for case number 2. Is that the case? If you were here for case number 2, the event venue, we were not going to talk about that event venue unless someone wants to provide any comments. So I just want to verify, because I thought someone came and wanted to talk about case number 2.
Is that number H Street?
No. Wait.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay.
So the answer is yes?
Yes.
Okay, so we will remove that item and hear it in its regular order. I would certainly entertain now a vote for the, or a motion rather, for the remaining consent agenda items.
I'll put a motion out to approve item number 3 and 5 on the consent items and have item number 2 pulled as requested.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
Three ayes, 1 absent. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next item on the agenda.
Sorry.
Oh, 2 rights of appeal. Sorry about that.
We are. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
3 and 5.
So for projects where the Planning Commission action is final, those actions are subject to appeal to the Board of Supervisors by any interested person, and no development proposed by any application may be authorized until after the final date of appeal. For case number 3, that appeal may be filed with the Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Department located at 2700 M Street, Suite 100 on Bakersfield, with a filing fee of $540 on forms that we have available at the department and on our website. That filing must be made within 14 days of and including the date of the hearing. For case number 5, as it is for a track map, that appeal must be filed within 10 days from the date of decision of your commission, and that appeal must also be accompanied by an appeal fee of $540. If no appeal is received, the action of your commission is final.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Now we'll move on to our public presentation portion of the agenda. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address our commission on any matter not on the agenda and over which we have jurisdiction. Any public presentations this evening?
I have a question. Does this include number 4?
It does not.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Okay, hearing no desire to move forward with the public presentation, we'll now jump to our public hearing portion of the agenda.
Chairman Ashley, I would just like to note that I have a conflict with item number 1, so I will not be making any vote or any comments on this item and will recuse myself from this item.
Fantastic. So we'll make a quick rearrangement of the agenda then. We'll hear item 2 first, and then we can do item 1 after you have recused yourself. You want to come back?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. It'd be we'll hear item 2, then we'll hear item 4, then item 1 will be the last item on the agenda.
Gotcha. You know what I meant.
That's what I was just going to clarify.
Thank you. With that, let's start with case number 2.
That would be me.
Thank you, Ms. Simon.
Thank you, Chairman Ashley, and good evening, Commissioners. Tonight, the project before you is conditional use permit number 76, map number 142, and Williamson Act cancellation number 23-02, map number 142. The applicant is Frank Rod by Barbara Lorar, and the project is located at 15329 South 8th Street, approximately a half mile north of Bear Mountain Boulevard on the west side of 8th Street in unincorporated Bakersfield. The project site is approximately 19.64 acres, and the map code designation is intensive agriculture, by the Metropolitan Bakersfield General Plan, and the zone classification is A, exclusive agriculture. The access to the site is directly from 8th Street, and the project site is currently developed with a home, a lake, and mature landscaping. Area to the north, south, east, and west consists of agricultural farmland. There are 2 single-family dwellings that are within the area, and that is one that is 530 feet north of the project site, and another that is approximately 1,325 feet south of the project. The applicant is again proposing an event venue that would be a total of 40 events per year. And they would be primarily using the outside area of the project site. They are proposing to use a bridal and groom room within the existing residence that will be converted for all ADA uses. The site is, the applicant is also proposing that that tours for the site would be available 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday unless there is an event. The applicant also wishes to hold events with the 40 events a year throughout the week so that they have flexibility to accommodate clients for if they wish to have an event on a Wednesday or a Tuesday. The project site is also located on property that is under a Williamson Act contract, in which, in order to process a conditional use permit, there will be no more agricultural use on the property, so therefore cancellation must be processed. The applicant has complied with all 5 of the findings for the cancellation. And because there is a single-family dwelling that has been on the project site since 2005, again, there is no agricultural use on the property, and therefore the use of the contract is no longer valid. Staff has reviewed the application and the proposal of the applicant, and there are several limitations that staff is recommending within the draft resolution before you. A couple of those are that the conditional use permit would be only for a duration of 3 years. That has been a standard recommendation of this department over the recent years in order to reevaluate and assess how the project has been going over those years. And so should there be an approval on this project, the applicant would be required, if they wish to have a permanent conditional use permit, to return to the planning department and apply for a modification to that conditional use permit to allow for permanency. A couple of the recommendations that staff is making on this project is that the number of events would be limited to a maximum of 40 events annually, that the limitation of guests per event would be 200 guests, and that would be including hired staff. Events would be conducted between 8 a.m. and 11 p.m., and cleanup for the events would take place 24 hours post-event, and setup for event could happen the day before. Amplified sound and announcement systems would be limited to, during the week of Thursday through Sunday, to be shut down by 9 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, the amplified sound would be shut down by 11 p.m. All music would be directed away from the existing residences out in the area, so that would be to the west of the site. Staff is also recommending that fireworks of any kind be not permitted, and that licensed security services on the site would be contracted by the applicant for every event. On-site food preparation would be prohibited, and that all food must be, and alcohol must be provided by a licensed bartending and catering services. Alcohol services would end an hour before the event, so Sunday through Thursday, that would be 8 p.m., and Friday through Saturday, 10 p.m. Concerts, fests, festivals, carnivals, or any similar events would be prohibited, and a supplemental event application such as a temporary event permit would need to be processed by the applicant separately from this conditional use permit in order for staff to evaluate the proposal. All structures on site, including patios, any area that people will be using, including the areas within the homes, would need to be made ADA compliant. In addition, Public Works has reviewed this case, and there would be a traffic plan that would have to be implemented, and that the applicant will need to contact the fire department for any requirements, including a possible emergency evacuation plan for any kind of emergencies. With that, staff recommends that your commission advise the Planning Commission to recommend to the Board of Supervisors to approve the conditional use permit for a duration of 3 years to expire June 8th, 2026, in accordance with the recommended conditions, and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the attached draft resolution. Advise the Planning Commission to recommend the Board of Supervisors approve cancellation 23-02 as requested, subject to payment of the cancellation fee, and direct the clerk of the board to issue a tentative certificate of cancellation and issue a certificate of cancellation subject to the payment of the cancellation fee and subject to written verification from the Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Department that confirms the applicant is in compliance with all other conditions contained in the tentative certificate of cancellation, and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the draft resolution. That concludes staff's presentation, and we are prepared for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Simon. Is the project proponent here? Would you like to speak to a commission? Thank you. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Frank Mott, last name is R-O-D-D-S David.
I'm his wife, Sanam, S-A-N-A-M. My first name, same last name as him.
Thank you. Would you like to say anything for the project, on behalf of the project?
We just want to thank all of you for allowing us to be here, for hearing our case. We are from Los Angeles, and we're new to Bakersfield. And, the time that we've been here, we have been, just with open arms. We have been welcomed with open arms. Everyone has been so kind, helping us, just to become more familiar with Bakersfield. And the love, the kindness that we've received from everyone here has just been incredible. I grew up in Los Angeles, and you don't see this over there. So to feel, that you're part of the community is incredible. So I just want to thank everyone, that, has welcomed us with open arms. And, we would like to have this venue. We would like to, have this venue to, have fundraisers, to have charity events. My husband and I have always been blessed. So we, our goal is to help the community in any way we can, whether it's, again, to host fundraisers or charity events, nonprofit, organizations. That's our main goal here, to welcome, that type of, those type of events. So I think that's
Thank you,
it.
Mr. and Mrs. Rod.
Thank you.
Always great to hear. We feel that way about our community as well, so always great to hear that from folks who come from out of town. If you don't mind, just kind of hang out. We may have questions or
Should we have a seat?
things that we'd like for you guys to answer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Any member of the audience like to speak for or against the project? Please.
Hi, everyone.
Spell your last name for the record.
My name is Danny Hill. I own Hill Broadcasting here locally. Also, I'm a DJ, radio DJ, event planner, DJ. I do that. I never really grew up, but I've been at this location several times, so I can tell you from experience, it's one of the few jewels of Bakersfield. If you've never been there, it's a mansion with this huge lake nearby. So the people that have events there are very, I want to say, upper class. So it's not like it's under control, this scenario. It doesn't get loud. It's not, and you'll see the surrounding. You can't hear the music outside of their property line because I walked around with it because I have to have a decimal reader, when I do these events because I don't want to get fined, right, if it's too loud. And with the stuff that I've done there, so far I've done 2 weddings, a baby shower, and a charity event for Bags of Love Foundation, which was, it's a charitable foundation for kids with cancer. So they do, they're being 100% correct when they say they want to do charity events there and they want to do things there. So beautiful location, and I will say that it's everything they described was dead on. But again, if you haven't been there, I would highly recommend going and checking out this spot, and you'll see that it is exactly what they say they're going to do with it. So anyway, for whatever that's worth, and if you need a DJ, let me know. I'm available for all your events.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
May I speak as well?
Please, if you don't mind, state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Roberta Nilsson, Nilsson. And I am very involved in the community. I've been involved with several fundraisers and most recently a Dress for Success Gala. And I just have to say that Frank and Sanam have always, whenever we've approached them about anything, they've always been willing, come use my venue. They want to give back to Bakersfield. So of course they're going to be doing the weddings as well. So it's a beautiful area for our family members to have their weddings there. But they're very giving to the community. And every event that I've attended there, it has been very under control. Like Danny was saying, Sanam and Frank are very conscious of the property and of the surrounding properties as well. And when they have, they direct the traffic very well. Everything's very organized. So I just wanted to add that to what Mr. Hill was saying.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Anyone else? Please come forward and spell your name and state your name. Spell your
My
last name.
name is Doug Kaiser, and I live down the street from these.
You spell your last name, please, sir.
15720 South H.
Do you mind spelling your last name for us, please?
Kaiser.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, there's a problem with this thing. First off, the planning committee, not the planning commission, but the staff has approved this. But before how come they don't come to the neighbors and find out how they feel about this? Because it's not, there's a problem with the parking, there's a problem with the noise, and there's a guy going to write a letter about the noise. It's not, you guys wouldn't let this thing happen in your neighborhood, and I don't want it to happen in my neighborhood. The staff is not doing their diligence. They're not doing their job to find out how the neighbors feel about this. And I have the same problem across the street when they put in this trucking firm, and it's fine. They haul ag products, but they haul human waste from El Segundo in Los Angeles, comes down into the TAP facility, and they're going to park their trucks across the street from me. And that human sludge smells. And there was an ordinance, they couldn't even bring it in here for a while. Now they got
Mr. Chairman, can we keep this relevant to the actual
Thank you,
issue?
Commissioner Oliver. Yeah, if you don't mind, let's talk about just this case this evening.
Anyway, we don't need this in our neighborhood. The school, another thing, the school, General Chapter School never got one thing about this venue going on. Not the neighbors. Well, one neighbor got it, but the neighbors never got any information. All at once is coming up for a vote.
Thank you, Mr. Kaiser. I'll ask staff to address your comments in just a few minutes. That's okay.
Hello, my name is Katrina Costa, Katrina Costa. I was happy to hear from them. I've never met the neighbors. We are the property directly across. My family's had it 70 years. So we're surrounded, we're farmers, we're surrounded by ag. So this is what we've known in our area, and I understand people have different rights and so forth, but on that situation, Doug, who lives down the street, as far as that, you have to understand, which I appreciate that they love Bakersfield, but a big part of this is the ag community and what we've incorporated and done out there. We have equipment and different farming operations and things around that. As far as across from we're directly across from it is the parking. We have a thing called liability and things like that if it's not done and it's on our property. The other part about, which I didn't know all of this until we got the information. I didn't realize that it changed owners on that property until we got the notice. The issue with the sound, we have 100 acres and we're on the north end of that. And maybe it's something that if they know about this, it pounds. The base, we're on the north end. And the windows, my mom's 88 years old. I'm like, we've lived there and it rocks. So, and we hear it, and everybody has the right to their quiet enjoyment or so forth out in our area. Most of all, you live there for a way of life. I mean, that's basically what that is. So there are some valid issues that need to be addressed, and however it goes, as far as with the neighbors too, to be aware and to do this. And I understand they're new to Bakersfield and so forth. But you're coming into an area that is predominantly ag. It's directly across from us with that. So there are concerns that we all have, because that's something, you think, boy, you're in town and hearing that or seeing all that. So there's some moving parts that need to be addressed with the location, with traffic and the school. And for us personally, you don't want to go out and hear that we farmed, we have acreage, animals, all that kind of stuff, and you're going out. And so it needs to be, there's codes and things like that. So I don't know, it doesn't mean that they knew directly these things, but I understand and how Doug feels. It's just we've been there our whole life. So it's something that we just want to be considered and respected, and not, for everybody to get along.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Please state your name and spell your last name for the record, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Shannon Lackey, and I met Sanam and Frank as a local business owner here in town, and I did hear a little bit about what Roberta said, and I just wanted to echo that they have been very involved with the community, donating their venue to the charities, making a lot of time to come up here. They are very, very conscious of the parking whenever I'm over there. I have been there for different events, and I've heard the sound, and I haven't experienced that. I don't live at those other neighboring locations, but being in the venue itself, the sound does seem to be pretty contained to the areas where they host the events, and I've been in other rooms and haven't been able to hear it. So personally myself, I haven't experienced that. But they have given a lot back to the community. I think it would be a great addition. It creates a lot of opportunities for charities and nonprofits here, as well as local schools that may not be able to afford other venues. So I think it's a great opportunity, and hopefully you guys will approve that. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lackey. Any other comments? Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Morgan Strong, and I am representing partially with them. I will be doing the events there should they get approved. I ran a venue who had a CUP on the Kern River for 12 years, JEH Ranch, and we've been in here a couple of times as well. Yep. And we are really working to make sure that we have all of our parking situations obtained so that we can provide a space to the community to do a lot of fundraisers and a lot of things like that. And to do events that are done under code and doing the things the proper way, because we don't have a lot of venues left in Bakersfield that are going through the proper channels, and they are new to here as well. So getting to know those things and getting to line out the parking, and I know that those are part of our conditions just the same should we get approved.
Thank you, Ms. Rowe. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll close that portion of the hearing and we'll move to the commission. Comments?
Thank you.
Questions?
Thank you, Chairman Ashley. I do have some questions just for the staff, maybe some clarification. Some comments were made of some concern, and maybe staff could address possibly how parking is being addressed at this site.
Sure, Commissioner Judge, I'd be happy to kind of touch base on that, and then a few other things that that I kind of heard. Again, the site proposal right now is to authorize a maximum of 200 individuals. So, I'm just mentioning that just so that we're clear on kind of what we're talking about. We are including conditions that allow them to have a maximum of 40 of those type of events per year. And we also included the condition that specified they could only get 2 of those events per week. So, it's not like this is a proposed event. They could have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, are all right there. You can't have more than 3 events in a particular week. So we are putting some limitations in terms of the total number per year and the number that can be held each week. For residents who are unfamiliar with the overall process, this needed a request because they are attempting to advertise. This is a potential event venue business, and they are over 100 people. Anybody is allowed to host a party on property that they own, a house that they own, anything of 100 or less. And if you do that, there is no permit required. There is nothing that has to go through. That is something that every household is allowed to do within the county. Again, what triggered the need for an event venue is they would like to advertise so that people can contact them and come use this as an event venue, and they're asking for more than 100 individuals. To address the time, as proposed, and I do believe we need a clarification to condition, I believe it's 3B, 3B. Staff is recommending that events being held Sunday through Thursday can be operated from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then any events on Friday or Saturday can go from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. We also have a condition specifically to touch base about the sound, which is condition 3F. And I do believe we might need a few tweaks on that as well. Staff does, these are 20-acre parcels. The neighbors are 20 acres. This is a 20-acre parcel. But in looking at the aerial, well, actually, before we go to the aerial, if Ms. Simon can highlight, when we refer to the event venue area within the site plan, can you highlight where that is? So that is that area kind of up by where the house is. So first of all, music is not allowed anywhere else on the parcel, amplified music. All of our music and anything along the site would be limited to that area. Right now we have a condition, 3F, that is proposing that any amplified music be directed west. Given the discussion that we have from the surrounding residents, maybe it's appropriate that we specify that any amplified sound be pointed southwest, just to even kind of put it away from where some of those closest residents are. I believe that that may help to address some of the concerns regarding noise and amplified music. Again, we also have time limits on when that music needs to stop. I believe it's an hour before the event ends is when the music would have to stop. If your commission believes that you do want to recommend approval and need to adjust those are within your purview. Regarding parking, all parking must be done on site. So, they have that area they believe is sufficient to get all the parking, but no parking could occur anywhere off this property. So before any of they have their first event ever, they would need to contact Kern County Public Works and work out a traffic control plan. The purpose of a traffic control plan is to let Public Works know about how many people are coming, how many cars are expected, potentially having to put directional signage in the road right-of-way to help direct people where they have to go so that they can get off of H Street into the appropriate area. So again, that would be reviewed by Kern County Public Works Department before they can have an event. And again, they would need to get a traffic control plan authorized to help direct the traffic to make sure that it is not creating any issues to the surrounding properties. But all the parking would be required to be conducted and remain on the project site. Finally, the last thing, just in terms of the comments that were done or that were provided. So staff is recommending that this particular CUP be authorized for a 3-year period of time. You know, sometimes we do authorize a temporary conditional use permit, at which point it would give an opportunity to see how some of the events were. If the applicant would like to continue that moving forward after that 3-year period of time, they would need to come in and a new conditional use permit would be required. It is also within your commission's purview if you want to change that to 2 years, even 1 year if you believe that's important. You know, staff came up with 3 years. That's kind of a typical standard that we go through, partly because if you only use 1 year, you may not have enough events to be able to advertise and really see if the conditions address all the concerns that were identified. So 3 years is kind of a typical standard that we utilize to give the opportunity to conduct events, but then also make sure there's a trigger point when we can make sure that the conditions as we propose them are being implemented appropriately and that they're actually addressing the concerns that have been raised. So those would be my responses to the comments that I heard.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Okay, the other commissioners that have questions or comments?
I have some, I guess, statements, at least on my perspective, that staff can comment on. For item 3C, it's regarding cleanup and setup for events. I personally would like to propose that we allow 48 hours post-event and 48 hours before an event. And the reason being is a lot of times you might have an event on Saturday and rental companies won't come and pick items up until Monday morning. And that really kind of constrains the event venue to be able to stay compliant. Another thing too is large-scale weddings. You don't want a bride to have to cram all of their setup within 24 hours. I think it would be fair to allow for 2 days of setup before an event. And other than that, I am fairly comfortable with the project. I think that we can discuss a little bit more in detail item 3B. And Mr. Murphy, I think I would like your recommendation on how we should edit that based off of the staff report. And I'm not sure if 3F is also included in that.
Thank you, Commissioner Skidmore.
All right. In regards to items 3C, I do agree with you. I was going to propose the same thing because I know a lot of times when you have the brides that are out there, when I've worked with the several of the bridal places out here and stuff, it is hard. So I agree with the 48 hours. I think it is a little easier, as well as on Sunday allowing when people are either in church or some of the rental companies not coming out there. I know I'm very, very familiar with this facility. I know as I'm very involved with a lot of different charitable events. I've actually been to the venue at a charity event, and actually for a birthday party. And they do handle a Class A act at this facility that I've witnessed myself. As I was reading through here, I thought that a lot of my concerns was any kind of traffic impact or any kind of parking as well at first. But I know when I went to one of the events, they did handle that very well. But I would like to see be able to do some kind of, make sure there's off-street parking or things like that in case of an event. If we have, say, less than, say, 100, maybe we put this condition less than 100 people or something like that, we have being able to have each standard. But if we have over that, we have to have an off-site parking or something, off-street parking, excuse me. But over that, I think this project's fantastic myself, and I agree with it wholeheartedly. And I agree with some of the staff recommendations as well as Commissioner Skidmore's suggestion of the 48 hours.
Thank you, Commissioner. Oliver. I too believe this is a good project. I have been to, I've not been to this particular venue, but I have been to JEH many, many times. I know the quality of event that goes on out there, so I would assume the same quality would carry over to the new site. I would be very interested to hear and working with Commissioner Jaws to amend some of the language for their recommendations, or Commissioner Skidmore rather. And so I'd be interested to hear what you can come up with, Mr. Murphy.
And just one additional thing I know with Ms. Strong, I know that, you know, I've been to numbers of your events, and I think I was we had Dress for Success. Where's that person? There she is. I think I was the #1 bidder at your event. But other than that, you know, trying to give back to our community. I know the types of events that you put on, and with your expertise there assisting the facilities and stuff, I think they're in good hands with your recommendations, and I feel comfortable moving forward as long as you're involved on this as well, because I've been, for so many years, I've seen you operate. So thank you so much. My addition.
Sure, thank you, Chairman Ashley, members of the commission. The one question I do need clarification for, and I'm prepared to provide proposals on all three of them. Are you wanting the music to be music amplified sound to play for the entire event? Or would you like me to structure a condition in such a manner that the music and amplified sound is required to stop an hour before the event generally ends? You know, we do that with with alcohol. Like, all alcohol needs to stop being served 1 hour before the event ends. As the condition is written right now, you are allowed, the applicant would be allowed to have the music and amplified sound play up until the event ends. I just need clarification. Is that what you want, or are you looking to have the amplified music stop an hour before the event actually ends?
I think because of the hour restrictions that we have right now, I think that the way that it's written is fine, and we would just go the way with the staff recommendations on that, because we do have limitations in regards to when they do have to shut down. And at that point there, I don't think it would, and that stays within the county laws and everything of noise issues.
Commissioner Jaws or
I
Skidmore?
am in agreement with commissioners as well. I think this is a good venue. I think that the request put by Commissioner Skidmore makes sense, and I would be willing to support those if we could draft some conditions to reflect those.
Okay, so if that's generally the proposed condition changes, we would make changes to condition 3B. I believe 3B should read, events shall be conducted between the hours of 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Sunday through Thursday. Events shall be conducted between the hours of 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday. So that would be how I would change condition 3B. Condition 3C, I believe it's as simple as the proposal by Commissioner Skidmore. Cleanup and setup for events shall be completed 48 hours post-event, and setup for events conducted 48 hours before event only. And then for condition F, I believe it should read, amplified sound, announcement systems, and megaphones shall not be permitted to be set up or used outside the event area, period. All amplified sound shall be directed to the southwest of the event site. And then I would leave the rest. All amplified music and announcements must be shut down by 9 p.m.
I don't think we made
Sunday
any
through
proposal
Thursday.
in regards to which direction it was going. I thought it was as written, it just to the west, which goes over the lake.
Well, the event venue is partly north. So I just need, it can read west, it can read southwest. That is a decision of your commission.
Commissioner
As it
Skidmore.
stands right now, I believe it states to the west. If we look at the way that the venue lies, it faces an easterly, now can you put that, or I guess either one, the map can, it faces fronting an easterly direction with the event venue that I was at. It was in the back there, and the DJs had set up, and they do point towards the lake. I don't think it's going to make any difference that I'm aware of, unless any other commissioners have any other issues.
I think it's fine as written.
Yeah. I don't think I'd change F at all. Just that one line that says shall be directed to the west of the site, we could leave that in, I guess.
Just for our record, I mean, that's your commission's prerogative. I do want to clarify some of that condition, as I read earlier, just to make it clear that amplified music is allowed. As the condition is worded right now, I think it's a little unclear. So it's not allowed outside the event venue area, but where it is allowed, it must point to the west. So there are still some clarifications I think need for that condition, but I will we can leave the condition facing west.
I would even add in there west or southwest. If we're going to change any of that, change it, you go west or southwest. If I was going to make a change, that's what I would change. Because that way it's going directly over the lake.
That's up to Ms. Skidmore to tell me which part of the recommendation she's including.
Let's keep item F as written, and I'm good with your corrections for item B and C.
Works for me.
So I can make a motion as read into the record, the edits by Mr. Murphy, based off staff's recommendation for approval.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
Four ayes, one absent, motion carries.
Thank you. And this one, I believe, also has a right to appeal. Is that correct, Mr.
It actually does not, because it includes a Williamson Act cancellation. So because this project includes the Williamson Act cancellation, a new hearing notice will be sent out to surrounding property owners when the item is scheduled for consideration by the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you very much. Okay. As we talked about earlier, we're going to go now to case number 4, I believe. Is that right?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chairman Ashley.
Thank you.
I would like to introduce Ms. Nicole Menchaca. She is the planner that has been working on this project, and she will present the staff report.
Please proceed, Ms. Menchaca.
Good evening, Chairman Ashley and Commissioners. The case before your commission this evening is CUP number 32, map number 10320, by applicant Scott Hare and represented by Swanson Engineering. The project is a conditional use permit to allow a 68-unit multifamily housing development with associated site improvements on approximately 4.13 combined acres over a total of 7 parcels. The project site is currently vacant and undeveloped, with the exception of one unoccupied commercial building, which would be demolished as part of the project proposal. The project site is located in an area that contains a mix of City of Bakersfield and Kern County jurisdictions. The project site has a map code designation of GC General Commercial by the Metropolitan Bakersfield General Plan and is located in the C2 General Commercial Zone District. Surrounding properties are zoned for commercial development and single and multifamily development, and the existing uses in the area include single and multifamily dwellings and commercial businesses such as medical facilities, retail shopping, and auto repair facilities. The proposed project design would include 5 two-story townhome-style buildings containing a total of 32 one-bedroom units and 36 two-bedroom units. In addition, the site would include 1 building that would house the leasing office, complex and pool maintenance storage area, as well as tenant amenity space including a clubhouse lounge area, fitness center, and pool restrooms. Additional resident amenities include picnic areas, open space areas, a pool spa, and in-unit laundry hookups. The site would be wholly enclosed by an 8-foot-tall wrought iron decorative fencing with 2 pedestrian locked gated entries and 1 vehicle entry with coded entry. Water and sewer services are proposed via the California Water Service and Kern Sanitation Authority, respectively. The applicant has secured will-serve letters from both agencies. During the project comment period, staff received several agency comments regarding recommended conditions for the development, and 2 comments from 1 neighboring resident expressing concerns about environmental review, suitability of the project for the zoning, and the impacts to the neighborhood. In response, staff has evaluated the proposed project and notes the project site is located in close proximity to necessary services such as transportation, medical offices, retail grocery shopping, opportunities, and auto repair facilities. In addition, the surrounding area is currently a mix of both commercial and residential uses. The proposed project would implement a use that is allowed within the existing zone district by obtaining a conditional use permit. The proposed project is similar in nature to the development in the surrounding area and would ensure compliance with the intent of the Kern County housing element to provide adequate sites designated for a variety of expansive new housing opportunities, which includes single-family housing and multifamily housing. Staff has consulted with affected agencies regarding traffic analysis, site drainage, and water sewer infrastructure, and incorporated recommended conditions of approval, including road improvements, drainage requirements, and water sewer requirements. Staff has also included recommended conditions of approval, incorporating all required development standards to ensure the safety of the proposed project and to ensure the integrity of the neighborhood is maintained. These conditions include, but are not limited to, requiring a lighting plan to be reviewed and approved by the Kern County Public Works Department, requiring a pre-construction biological survey to ensure that no special species habitat or flora are being disturbed, requiring site landscaping and parking landscaping, fencing the entirety of the project site, and requiring contact information for site management in case of emergencies. Staff believes the proposed project, subject to the recommended conditions of approval, is an ideal infill project for the vacant parcels. Therefore, staff's recommendation is to approve the conditional use permit, subject to the recommended conditions of approval, and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the attached draft resolution. This concludes staff's presentation, and staff is available for any questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, would the project proponent like to speak on behalf of the project before we start the public comment piece? Please state your name and spell your last name for the record if you don't mind.
Mr. Chairman, Planning Commissioners, I'm Bob Swanson, representing Scott here for this development, Swanson, S-W-A-N-S-O-N. I believe this is a great project for this location. It will clean up a lot that's been vacant many, many years. It'll add road improvements, curb gutters, sidewalks, and landscaping around the perimeter of the site. And the fencing surrounding the site will be a great protection for the people living within it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. Okay, are there members of the public that would like to speak? Or, sorry, would you like to speak? Yeah, go right ahead.
Yes, I'm Scott Hare, H-A-I-R. I've been affiliated with this property for over 35 years. It has a long history of not being developed, simply because at one point there were 3 owners of it, and it took a lot of work and time and effort to finally get everybody off the property and happily off the property where we could move forward with a development on it. I lived in the neighborhood right across the street on Jefferson Street for 10 years myself. I ran Green Frog Market on the corner there at Alta Vista and Bernard. So I know the neighborhood extremely well. And it's a unique neighborhood. There are 5 distinct demographic groups of people that live within a 2-mile radius of that site. And that makes it extremely difficult to make a one-shoe-fits-all type of project out of anything there. And so when we looked at moving forward with this project and what we could do with it, and what we could do to keep the people in the neighborhood in the comfortable place that they're used to living in and not change the atmosphere of that, this is the project that we came up with. And we brought on what I think are the top people we could find in and out of the area to help us design a project that would fit into the neighborhood and enhance the living there and not take away from it. So I understand that, there's a lot of people that have concerns about it. I have my experience on that property and being around it all these years is that this is not going to have an appreciable change to the neighborhood that already exists. Bernard was the main arterial feeder to East Bakersfield for years before 178 was put in. So this neighborhood has always had a lot of traffic and a lot of action on it. And I think that it's what we're doing with the way that we're doing the project, gating it, putting gates on it and fencing it, and a higher quality product. I don't know if you heard, but we're putting washers and dryers in every unit. This is all part of the plan to make it a place where people can come to stay and live. In addition, we anticipate this project being an integral part of the development that's starting to happen down on 34th Street, and I think is in the plans to spread greatly. And I think this is just a one step in the right direction for this part of East Bakersfield in bringing back a vibrant commercial community back up into the area also.
Thank you, Mr. Hare. Hang tight. We may have questions or comments for you later on. Okay. Members of the public, I see one coming forward now, so just state your name and spell your last name for the record, please.
My name is Robert Mahan, M-A-H-A-N. I live at 2412 Alta Vista Drive. I've seen this area my whole life. I'm a third generation in this area. There used to be a miniature golf course, a small gas station on the corner, and a hamburger stand at one time. I don't think this is the right venue. I don't know about the study from Kern Sanitation. Every year on the corner of Alta Vista and Bernard, it floods sewage. So for them to say they can take care of it, we haven't taken care of it yet. The Cal Water, we lose water pressure constantly. If it's been that easy to take care of, it would have been taken care of. I would really like to see some of these things addressed prior to construction starting. And I didn't see anything about ADA housing. You can't use ADA on a multi-story project unless you have elevators. I'd like to see that too if it's gonna benefit the whole community. We've had problems in the community before. Right now, there's somebody living in the old Shakey's Pizza Parlor with no power. He's lived there ever since Green Frog went out of business. Somebody's let him live there. We had a marijuana shop up the street, a dispensary. We also had a casino. And they're finally out of the neighborhood, and our neighborhood is quieted down. And I'd hate to see that come back. I'd hate to see it come back to where we have problems. I don't think it should go through, and I think we should take a second look, a hard look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mahan.
One more thing. I'd like to see a completion bond on the project. I'd like to see that asked for, so that halfway through the construction, when the money's gone, we're not going to see blight in the neighborhood or wait for someone to burn it to the ground. Thank you,
sir. Other questions or other comments, rather?
Good evening. My name is Kelly Matthews. I live in the neighborhood. I've lived in the neighborhood most of my life. And I've seen the neighborhood go down ever since this guy's he basically ran his father-in-law's business into the ground. Green Frog Market and with some shrewd deal got Dollar General in there, and the whole neighborhood's been gone down since. As far as letting somebody live in the neighborhood, he owns the Shakey's building, so obviously he let somebody live there without power, right there in the building right there. Doesn't care about what he does in the neighborhood, drives through his neighborhood with his Escalade up to his house, palatial house up on Panorama, could care less about any of us. This neighborhood has gone downhill, and like the gentleman said before, there is no sufficient sewage there or water in the neighborhood. Everybody, since Dollar General's came in there whenever Green Frog left, or ran into the ground, should I say, it's become unsafe. It's not even the same neighborhood. It's pathetic, you know, and this is supposed to, by the same bozo that ran that into the ground, this is supposed to make a difference? No. All it's going to do is going to bring our neighborhood down even more. You know, I expect more from you guys, so hopefully you guys can take a look at this. Unless any of you plan on moving to the neighborhood and living there, I mean, that's fine. I mean, if this guy's going to live in there and manage the place, okay. He won't though. So yeah, it's a bad deal all the way around. Nobody's going to benefit from this except that guy right there. So our neighborhood won't.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
Hi, my name is Christy, K-R-I-S-T-I, Delano, like the town, D-E-L-A-N-O. Delano, D-E-L-A-N-O. I too, this is my childhood neighborhood. I spent a lot of time in Great Park Market and Shakey's Pizza and the little, Pee Wee Golf out back. And, a proposal to develop this land or this area, I would embrace, except I'm coming to you with some real sincere concerns about the overall management and the viability of this happening. And I wouldn't normally come before you and want to stop any kind of development or progress, but I just learned recently that I think the community was misled and led to believe that Green Frog was sold and that the family had sold the market. And I just found out that that wasn't true. And as others, I've seen that the community, a lot of businesses and landowners really not, keeping up the property. And even Dollar General, I was a little concerned. I thought, wow, this company is not really taking care of business here. Well, it turns out it wasn't really sold. It's still within the family, or they sold it to themselves. I don't really understand a lot of that stuff. So I have some concerns about the time, the funds that it would take to develop something like this, and most importantly, the management of a property of this size. The drawings are beautiful, the proposal, of face value, but I also understand that there's more to this. People have spoken about the issues of sewer and water. Those are really, really true. I live in the house and now, co-own the house on 315 Jefferson, right across the way. And I think that house itself should be a litmus test for this family's ability to manage property. So I have some deep concerns, and I want this commission to really take them seriously. I think a couple of years ago, there was a proposal about something with the county, and it was kind of mixed use, or there was going to be a community center and along with some affordable housing. That really seems to be more what I think would be conducive for the neighborhood. I think there was even talk about maybe even putting a sheriff's substation in there. It is a weird carve out. We've seen an increase in crime, gang activity. Again, several neighborhood watch meetings. Everyone was complaining about the gentleman that was residing in the old Shakey's building, and that it was very likely he was fencing stolen goods. And, Sheriff Youngblood was a little frustrated because there wasn't really much he could do about that, as it is, private property. Unless there was a smoking gun or fire, there wasn't much they can do. So my concerns are sincere. I think that there needs to be a lot of conversation and consideration about this development going forward. And I just have a lot of, deeper and growing concerns as we go forward. So I think that's something that the, commission, you guys should really consider. I know you don't have to really vet anyone or whatever. It's just a very simple proposal at this point for a conditional permit. But going forward, I think really, truly, and even I do want to say that there is an importance for affordable housing. I cannot disagree with that. I absolutely understand that there is that need, but it is up to you and oversight to really do due diligence to make sure that this is the right way to go. I wouldn't want to see something get halfway there and be abandoned, or go belly up, or any number of things at this point, because I think I'm really at a place where it has lost. I have no vote of confidence on this project, given the history and the things that I've come to understand, especially recently. So just, tread lightly and thank you for the time.
Thank you, Ms. Lawler. Additional commenters? Please come forward. I think this lady down, were you going to speak? Okay. State your name and spell your last name for the record.
Yes, sir. My name is Hugh Reynolds, H-U-G-H, Reynolds, R-E-Y-N-O-L-D-S. I wanted to say a few things. I grew up in that neighborhood since I was 7 years old. Frequented the Green Frog Market under Charlie Everett. Great store. I also own about 6 pieces of property in the immediate area. I have the automotive machine shop, some rentals in my house. Mr. Hare still apparently owns the property the Dollar General is on. My sister-in-law works there. And the lights they go out, people steal the wires, cut the cables out of them. It takes forever for them to get anybody out there to fix anything. They have to go through Mr. Hare. So I'm very concerned about this project getting finished and having the money to finish it. When he took over the Green Frog Market, he remodeled it and really did a very poor job. And they had to come in and redo the whole store pretty much, put the Dollar General in. I'm kind of worried about what will happen to that project if it does get done, who's going to run it and what it's going to end up like. And there is one other issue we have in the neighborhood other than the sewer and the water. We have an electrical shortage. My power is going out every now and then in my building, my business, because it's overloaded. They've been working on it, but what's this going to do with all these units? So pretty much I'd just like to see that completion bond gone in there. I'd like to see what's going to happen with the property management. That's about all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Thank you.
Any additional commenters?
Hi, Natalie Remington, N-A-T-A-L-I-E-R-E-M-I-N-G-T-O-N. So I also grew up in the neighborhood, and if you didn't grow up in the neighborhood, you may wonder, you may look at the map and wonder what the big deal is. But at one time, that was the heart of the whole neighborhood because of Green Frog Market and Shakey's Pizza and the miniature golf area, and that was sort of what held everybody went to Green Frog. When you're a little kid, everybody knew you. So that has passed. I understand that. With Dollar General, it seems like there's an element in the neighborhood that wasn't there before, and that's concerning, especially when the proposal is for low-income housing and the emphasis is, well, there's going to be a gate around it. Well, there are gates around a lot of low-income housing, and it doesn't make it better. I mean, what's it going to look like 5 years from now? It looks beautiful on paper now, but if there isn't proper upkeep, it's going to be a problem, and it's going to drive a lot of people away who have been trying to hold on and keep the neighborhood livable without fleeing to the northwest or fleeing to the southwest. And I don't feel like this is the right project for the neighborhood. And I also was thinking about a completion bond. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Will you spell your last name for me one more time, please?
R-E-M-I-N-G-T-O-N.
Thank you, Ms. Remington. Okay, additional commenters? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion, and we'll go to the commissioners.
I can start.
Okay.
I think I need some clarifying updates on next steps for sewer, water, and utilities and how those will be assessed. And then I'd like a conversation around what a completion bond is, and is that something that's within our purview?
Commissioner Skidmore through the chair. So the project is right now conditioned to be on public water, public sewer. So nothing will get built if this project is approved. Nothing would get built until the final documentation are provided that public water and public sewer are available to the site. So, you know, that's about as straightforward as it gets. Not allowed to use septic as conditioned, not allowed to use any other form other than connections to public water. Project is also required to implement full Type A street improvements. So Type A development standards are any widening of the road that is needed based on Public Works determinations on the classification of the road, and then full curb gutter sidewalks. So, you know, clearly when it comes to retention of water and everything, sites that don't have curb gutter and sidewalks, sites that are not connected to the public sewer wastewater system, it is more difficult to have the drainage and anything retained on site. This project would be required to retain all drainage on site, and as part of the building permit review process, they would have to provide the drainage plan, and that would be reviewed by Public Works as well regarding assurances that the water will be addressed and does not leave site unless it's going to an appropriate wastewater treatment through the sewer system. Regarding the completion bond, I guess I'm assuming what they're referring to is some bond that has to be fronted or established in case the project developer doesn't complete a project, and then whether that bond means that it can be reconstructed, or I'm assuming we might need more clarification from that as well. But in general, I don't believe that that's something, and Public Works might be able to provide a little more detail. We have Josh Champlin, the interim director of Public Works here. But I do not believe that's something that is typical on any commercial or residential projects, at least from a standpoint of, I don't like the guy who's building it, therefore it should be required. I mean, this project would be required to meet every other development standard, every other requirement that any other commercial, residential developer would build. So to go above and beyond that in anything, I don't necessarily think it's appropriate, just given the fact that most of the residents appear not to have a like for the project applicant, I guess I would say. When it came down to planning, when we looked at this, you know, it is clearly an infill project, and, you know, it is designated for commercial uses. A CUP for multifamily is an authorized use, provided you can meet the 5 findings necessary for authorization of a conditional use permit. There is R2 zoning and other multifamily within the neighborhood. You know, in terms of should it be commercial or residential, I can tell you from a housing perspective, we need more multifamily development, one way or the other. Whether or not commercial is viable, you know, that's up to what the property owner believes. They could find someone to build and construct and operate from that perspective. So, you know, it's kind of difficult for staff to make a determination from that aspect of it. You know, we look at the overall site. We believe it's a good location for a multifamily development. Again, not that it's relevant. Staff has no indication that this is a low-income housing project or anything along those lines. Actually, I met with the Kern Housing Authority, and what they were telling me is they really don't ever have private low-income proposed projects, because the reason you use the low income is to get additional funds for that. And I can tell you that this is not a project that the Kern Housing Authority, to my knowledge, is involved with or anything along those lines. So, you know, when staff looks at this, just like we look at any other proposed development, we look at what the proposed use is. And so when we look at the improvements from the street that would be required, the requirement to be sewer, water, which would help improve the overall function of the neighborhood, we believe that it's appropriate as a conditional use permit at this time. But that's the best I can answer regarding some of the comments that were raised to date.
Thank you.
Other commissioner comments, questions?
Commissioner Ashley, on this project, I do know that we as the county are looking and in need of more multifamily housing. That's something that is being pushed not only locally but on the state level. And I also look at this scenario right now of some mixed commercial use that's been there, has been developed prior to this, which currently is not being used. My comments would be is, obviously we want to build a good project here, and that complements the community. And I think a mixed-use facility that has housing like this could complement the area. Right now, I think as long as they're meeting the guidelines set forth as far as quality of development, they've got their will served from a local water authority. I don't see major issues that right away pop out to me, besides of obviously trying to be good to the community and build a development that helps the community.
Thank you, Commissioner Joshi. Commissioner Albert?
Yeah, really, I'm just going to reiterate what my fellow commissioners have said. I mean, reviewing this, we do need additional housing area. Reviewing this project, as I've gone through a lot of different projects myself as an owner, as a developer and builder, real estate broker. The project as it is written is consistent with the goals and policies of our county. We have to follow certain, as this commission, follow certain laws and things like that and rules. And a homeowner is allowed, or excuse me, property owner is allowed to develop their property within guidelines, and as long as they meet certain criteria, which in this particular case, as outlined, they have met. I don't see any issues with it right now. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Albert. So are you guys ready to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as written and suggested by staff.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
Four ayes, one absent, motion carries.
Thank you very much. Brought up appeal, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For projects where the Planning Commission action is final, which is in fact this action, those actions are subject to an appeal to the Board of Supervisors by any interested person, and no development proposed by any application may be authorized until after the final date of appeal. That appeal may be filed at the Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Department, located at 2700 M Street, Suite 100 in Bakersfield, with a filing fee of $540 on forms available at the department and on our website. That filing must be made within 14 days of and including the date of tonight's hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Okay, now we're going to circle back and get case number one. Give the ladies a chance to shuffle.
Yeah, we do. We have a change of staff. Miss
no
Cindy
problem.
Hoover will be making this presentation, I believe, once she gets situated.
Good evening, Ms. Hoover. No, it's quite all right. You start at your convenience.
Okay. Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. I have here with me tonight Mr. Tolentino, who's the staff planner. Is this mic not working? Perfect. Would you like me to start over? Good evening. I have here with me Mr. Tolentino, who's the staff planner for item number 1 on the agenda tonight. The applicant for this project is Abdel Fidel, who's represented by LAV Pinnacle Engineering. And this case was originally scheduled to be heard on your May 25th, 2023 agenda. However, was continued to tonight's hearing to allow staff time to review additional clarifying information regarding the project design. The proposed project before your commission tonight is a request for the following land use entitlements: a general plan amendment to amend the land use element of the Metropolitan Bakersfield General Plan from map code RIA, Resource Intensive Agriculture, to map code HC, Highway Commercial. A zone classification change from A1, Limited Agriculture, to C2 PD, General Commercial Precise Development Combining, or a more restrictive district, and a precise development plan for a highway commercial development on approximately 5 acres that would include a 10,000 square foot commercial building containing an 8,000 square foot convenience store and 2,000 square foot fast food restaurant with drive-through, and an 8-pump auto fueling canopy and a separate 6-pump diesel truck fuel canopy with truck scales. Also included would be a landscape dog run and incidental site improvements such as parking, an on-site drainage sump, an engineered septic system for sewage disposal, and an on-site well for the provision of water. The project site is located at the northeast corner of the Highway 58 and Comanche Drive interchange. The surrounding area is predominantly agriculture, including orange and citrus groves. However, just north of the site is a similar type of highway commercial center based on a previously approved precise development plan. The development to the north includes a convenience store, fast food restaurant, and fueling stations. And additionally, the land immediately surrounding the proposed project site to the north and east was recently approved by the Board of Supervisors for the expansion of the existing highway commercial center to allow future development of 2 new fast food restaurants, a convenience market, and fueling stations for autos and trucks. Further north beyond the existing highway commercial development is Edison Highway, followed by the Union Pacific Railroad line that runs parallel. Access to the project site is proposed to be provided by Comanche Drive, and while the current PD plan that's in your staff report package indicates the access drive will be located at the northernmost point of the parcel along Comanche Drive, condition of approval number 2A requires potential relocation of the access drive in consultation with the Public Works Department. It is also worth noting the project site is sited at the beginning of the future northward expansion of the South Beltway. And condition of approval number 2B requires the dedication of 105 feet from the center line of Comanche Drive to be used for the future Beltway expansion. Water for the facility is proposed through the installation of a new on-site well. Prior to installing a new well, state regulation requires the applicant to contact nearby well owners and water service providers within a 3-mile vicinity and request connection to existing systems. In the event opportunities to connect with existing nearby wells are not available, alternative pathways are available to ensure the applicant can secure the necessary permits for a new well through Kern County Environmental Health Services Division and the State Water Resources Control Board. Additionally, the applicant has consulted and coordinated with the Arvin Edison Water Storage District to ensure the project design and project water demand are consistent with the State Groundwater Management Act and local groundwater sustainability plan. In preparation for tonight's hearing, staff distributed a notice of public hearing to all affected agencies, county departments, and property owners within 1,000 feet of the project boundary. As a result of this notice, 5 comment letters related to the proposed project were received. Commenters include the Kern County Public Health Services Department, Kern County Public Works Development Review Division and Floodplain Management Section, the Kern County Superintendent of Schools, and CalGEM. All comments are attached to your staff report, and staff has included recommended conditions of approval that are incorporated into the draft resolution to address the comments received. Staff believes adherence to these recommended conditions of approval will ensure the proposed development conforms to safety and development standards implemented by the Public Works Department, as well as those set forth within the zoning ordinance, all of which work in tandem to ensure the proposed development will not be materially detrimental to the health and safety of the public or the property or residents in the vicinity. Staff has reviewed this project in its entirety and notes the following to support a recommendation for approval. Based on the uses proposed, staff believes approval of the requested HC Commercial Highway Map Code designation is consistent with the applicable goals and policies of the Metropolitan Bakersfield General Plan and provides a logical expansion of existing HC land use designations located adjacent to the project site and south of Highway 58. The proposed development and services would be compatible with the neighboring Highway Commercial Center and approved expansion area. Would also effectively promote infill of land that could otherwise potentially remain vacant or be utilized for uses permittable within the existing A1 district that may be disharmonious with adjacent commercial activities. Staff believes that your commission can make all the required findings necessary to approve the requested land use entitlements as conditioned and recommended by staff. Therefore, the department recommendation for this project is to advise the Planning Commission to recommend the Board of Supervisors to approve the amendments to the land use element of the Metropolitan Bakersfield General Plan to Map Code HC, Commercial Highway, as recommended by staff, enact ordinance and adopt resolution approving the zone change as recommended by staff, adopt recommended findings and approve the precise development plans subject to the recommended conditions of approval, and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the attached draft resolutions. This completes staff's presentation. Staff is available for your questions. I'd also like to point out that the applicant, Mr. Fidel, as well as his project representative, Scott Quintana from LAV Pinnacle, are here and to answer questions, as is Josh Champlin, the interim director for the Kern County Public Works Department.
Thank you, Ms. Huber. I would invite you, as the project proponent or representative, please come up and say a few words if you'd like to.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chair, my name is Scott Quintana, SCOTT, QUIN, TANA. First off, just want to say thank you for even the opportunity to have the conversation with this on the agenda. This has been a project that has been in the process for quite a while. I think, one comment that can be made to that is that, as you heard, some of these projects can have the potential to be somewhat contentious given the complexities of them, and I think it's fair to say that at this point, all the easy projects are probably done. And so we appreciate the opportunity to just at least have the discussion. Not much to say about the details of the project. I think Ms. Hoover covered that very well. And we're here to support the conversation, the discussion on how to best determine a path forward. And for what it's worth, the planner on this project has been nothing less than exceptionally helpful. It oftentimes is an extremely thankless position, and sometimes even we get frustrated. But it has been, it's been enjoyable to help work through that process with Mr. Tolentino so that we could get to a place and have a reasonable discussion. So for that, we do appreciate it. We'll turn it over to you guys for conversation.
Thank you, Mr. Quintana. Okay, I'll invite members of the public now to come and speak their mind on this project.
Hello, Patricia Newquist, Cornerstone Engineering. I have some packets I'd like to hand out. Can I give them to staff?
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Daryl Whitten. I'm with Cornerstone Engineering. I'm here to speak in opposition to this project. I have a history with this. Our firm started a PD plan on this site in 2007, and we had a number of difficulties and among them were difficulties with Caltrans. The site plan was different then, but the project difficulties and the economy kind of did it in at that time. But when I was working on that project, we got a letter from Caltrans, and it is a letter that's in the packet that was just handed out. It's addressed to Christopher Olson, who was on staff at Cornerstone at that time. And I'd like to direct your attention to the third paragraph of this letter. Down at the bottom, which is highlighted, it says, "It's recommended that the project obtain a shared driveway agreement with the adjacent northern parcel in order to eliminate potential driveway conflicts as they were located very close to each other." Now that letter came from Caltrans in 2008. I have another letter that's in the packet that was given to you, and this is a 2022 letter addressed to Paul Candelaria. This is a letter from Caltrans. The first couple of pages of this letter are very technical. They address issues around a traffic study that was done on this project. I direct your attention to page 3, paragraph number 15, states, towards the end of it, it says, "Per the Transportation Research Board Access Management Manual, driveway and intersection spacing should be 1,045 feet. It's in a reference to spacing along Comanche, where this project has its access frontage. Paragraph 16, just below it, says, "Limited adjacent access connections is essential for the safe and efficient operation of a roadway." Then just below that, paragraph 17 says, "The appropriate distance measured along Comanche Drive between the project's proposed driveway and State Route 58 westbound off-ramp is 330 feet." And then finally, in the paragraph number 18, Caltrans recommends that the project be permitted via Comanche Drive with the condition that the project reach a share access agreement with the property owner of the proposed commercial development to the east. Ideally, the proposed project and the commercial development to the east should share one access point on Comanche Drive. Now, clearly, Caltrans has a safety concern about the proximity of this project's access between its driveway on Comanche and their off-ramp intersection on the north side of Highway 58. So I want to now direct your attention to the staff report on page 7. The paragraph at the bottom, paragraph number 2, it states that you have to make a finding that the proposed development will not be materially detrimental to the health and safety of the public or the property and residents in the vicinity. Now, if you turn the page and look on page 8 of the staff report, the middle of the second paragraph, it says, "And where appropriate, coordination with nearby property owners and California Department of Transportation, District 9, I think they mean District 6, to ensure road frontage improvements and access to and throughout the neighboring businesses would not conflict with the off-site traffic." So staff wants to condition this project to kick the can down the road and have these issues resolved after you've changed the land use designation on this property. In my opinion, this commission cannot make the required finding of safety to the public until the access issue is resolved with the surrounding property owners and with Caltrans. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Whitten. Sorry about that.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, staff. I'm Patricia Newquist, Cornerstone Engineering. On behalf of the neighbor and our client, it was not that long ago that we stood before your commission. In fact, it was January 24th when we received approval of the general plan amendment zone change and PD mod adjacent to the proposed project. As a reminder, please refer to the last page of the handout provided. Our client has an established business at Comanche and Edison that includes a convenience store, retail restaurant, space, and fueling stations. The existing business is currently being expanded to include additional retail restaurant space, fueling stations, EV charging stations, and a truck wash. Access to this expansion was permitted and constructed prior to the GPA zone change and PD plan approval, not after. It appears to me that the project before you tonight leaves the access open-ended, where an access should be fully defined prior to a hearing. We mentioned in January that our client had tried for several months to reach out to the property owner regarding the issue of shared access, and still to this date, he has not responded. Note in the staff report, the precise development plan memo from Public Works to Planning dated May 16th, 2023, item number 4, states the drive approach shown on the site plan shall have a distance of 150 feet center line to center line from the newly proposed drive approach on parcel 1 of parcel map 5264. This is not consistent with the traffic study and conflicts with the current provided site plan. The letter also says that the developer needs to contact Caltrans to verify required distance between the Caltrans ramp intersection and the project entrance. Caltrans has already said that they want a shared access 330 feet north of their off-ramp intersection. These two conditions are in conflict. With these issues, we feel the discretionary action for general plan amendment zone change should not be approved. If the drive approach is moved south 150 feet to comply, it would require an 85-foot right turn pocket, which is not feasible unless right-of-way is acquired from Caltrans. This is too close to the off-ramp and creates a health and safety issue. Caltrans has stated multiple times they will not grant this. The site plan also falls apart. Caltrans notes in the March 24th, 2022 letter, item 21, that all project buildings and permanent structures shall be constructed at a minimum setback of 14 feet from the project site's south right-of-way line to accommodate future State Route 58 westbound off-ramp widening improvements. This site's underground leach lines and sump fall in the setback area. Lastly, I'd like to point out that Comanche is a designated future beltway, and per the proposed conditions of approval, the applicant must record through the Public Works Department an irrevocable offer of dedication to the County of Kern along the project frontage of Comanche Drive, 105 feet in width, per the Kern County Land Division Ordinance and Development Standards. The applicant's canopy is within this setback area. We are in opposition of your approval tonight and are here to answer any questions should you have them. Thank you.
Mark will do it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioners, through the chair, Russell Johnson with Common Sense Consulting. We've got up on your screen, I'll walk you through the site plan as it's shown on this drawing. First, I'd like to state that the proposed item before you tonight for 58 Comanche is not ready for prime time. As I will show on the overhead, the site is too intense as designed. Furthermore, the needed revisions, it shrinks from 4.94 acres to a net buildable acreage of 3.6. So as previously was stated, the Caltrans comment letters, you see on the south side, there's the green hatching. That's the pushback that's going to be required for moving the leach lines, the sump, moving all that, so Caltrans has the added space that they're requesting in that letter from 2002. In addition, you've got the red hatching, which shows where the 8 pumps, which is actually 16 pumps, it's 2 per each pumping unit, is where the fueling canopy is in that 105-foot setback. It's further going to move the site inwards. And this site has a lot going on. You've got a C-store, 10,000-foot C-store proposed. You've got a 2,000 of that 10,000 square feet is set to be fast food. If you note, the stacking for the fast food to pull into the driveway backs up right into where cars are going to be lining up to get fuel. That creates an on-site circulation issue when it's 4.94 acres. When you start shrinking this and adding in the semis, you've got a site which is too small, which drops down to 3.66 net buildable acres, and it's far too intensive a use for this area. I think it's important to point out this site currently is a general plan amendment, zone change, PD plan. You've got access for agriculture use right now in Comanche, so the site has access. By changing the general plan amendment zone change, you change the intensity of the site. In doing so, you need to make sure the PD plan matches the site. I think due to the intensity of the site, the proposed project is not consistent with the general plan. On page 6 of the staff report, it states, Goal 3, that the proposed development must complement existing development. This proposed project does not complement existing development. In fact, it's going to create a dangerous access issue, and it's going to create way too intensive a use. It's going to back stuff up off onto 58, and it's going to become a nightmare interchange for people to exit the freeway, get services, and get off. Furthermore, Policy 16 states that it allows for a variety of commercial uses for residents, highway users, tourists, and visitors. This is a proposed very similar use to what's already existing in the area or what's been pre-approved to go and expand into the area. I think it's clear that this project's just not quite ready for prime time, and therefore your commission should be denying this project tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Raji Brar, spelled B-R-A-R. I'm here tonight to talk to the Commission about this project, and we are here in opposition to it. As was mentioned earlier, we are the neighbors that are to the east of this project. My family and I have been building in Kern County for many, many years. We're developers. We build gas stations. We build fast food restaurants and other businesses. And as developers, we always do our due diligence when we purchase any piece of property. Whether it's ag and we want to change it to commercial, we do all of our homework. We find out about access issues. We find out about environmental issues. And when we built this location here, we took all those considerations into effect before we built this property out. And we were before your commission a few months back for the property, and that's going to be to the east of it as well, and adding in a truck stop, fast food, all of that. Our concern with this project is safety, number one, and liability on us when there's issues with traffic and accidents with big rigs trying to go in and out together. Our concern is that this project does not complement our existing development, but it hinders it by causing chaos for not just for us, but any travelers who are going to come to this location and have issues with flow and access. And that's one thing as gas station owners we look at is flow and access, easy in and easy out. And when this project, if proposed, gets put where it's going to be, it's going to cause us major flow issues. And eventually, and I know that the Commission's mission statement says that your goal is to ensure economic prosperity and spur economic development. But is this the best use, the beneficial use of land here? If this goes in, this is going to affect us negatively and the proposed proponent of this project negatively. Nobody's going to want to come here because of the headache it's going to be caused. So we, again, respectfully ask the Commission to oppose this project, and we're here for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burr.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Rupinder Singh Judge, and we got the gas station next to this proposed project, And anytime I'm doing business from 30 years in Kern County, building gas station, Taco Bell, Subways, Pizza Hut, we always look for a location where we have the access. Looking at this piece of property, is not very good access to this property. And also, we got 2 letters, as they mentioned before, came from Caltrans. They was telling them there's not enough access. If you look, the way they propose right now, after doing this thing, the stacking problem will be 65 feet only. If we look, it will come almost in Caltrans right away. 1 truck will cover this. The rest of them will be on the off-ramp. I don't know how this project can work. And the other things we looking at the water over there. And we got the letter came into from water district. They was telling us they should consult the neighborhood properties where they can get their water. And also from urban water district, they say there is no guaranteed that they will get water. Because the reason is this piece of property never been farmed, is a ag zone. It get access for the ag zone. But as we mentioned before, every property is not buildable that we can build anything over there if we don't have the access or we don't have the water and then we don't have the right zoning. Yeah, it's an ag zone. They could put anything with ag, not with the commercial, making our life harder. We spend millions of dollars over there improving our property. Now this one coming is going to make us a conflict, how the truck will go over there and how the people will enter into our own property. And I think it's a negative effect on us as compared to the helping the community. It will be hurting the community because people won't stop over here. And giving the permission to change the zone change, do all that stuff is too much. They should first talk to Caltrans, get their permit, and also the water issues and the access issues should be resolved first, not later. We always, when we develop our property, we always take care of this one. We always resolve these kind of things first, not later. And I think instead of helping, we are hurting. And I think that's the way this project should be denied. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. Additional commenters? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comment period, session, and we'll move to the commissioner comments or questions.
Mr. Chairman, can I provide some context before you start your deliberations? I also believe, based on the comments provided, it would absolutely be appropriate to have Mr. Josh Champlin come to provide some comments specifically regarding traffic. But the things I would like to point out specifically are this project has gone through the exact same process that the project to the north and the east that you just recently went through and authorized. They have the same will serve comments. They have the same process that went through in terms of the applicant's background, doing studies and kind of going through this process. I would note that that project to the east that went through a same general plan amendment and zone change had a condition that says you need to provide the shared access. That comment was provided on their projects as well. Staff included that as a condition. During the conversation and deliberation on that project before your commission removed it as part at a request from the project proponent. And they indicated that they did not want to have a condition on their project that required the shared access. We would have liked to have done that. We were trying to help encourage that. We can't require it. Again, Caltrans comments say, hey, you should. It doesn't say shall. You know, we go through that particular process. We wanted to try to work that out. I would note that that applicant also knew that a shared access was being hopeful and part of that project, and staff had indication that they were not willing to provide it. Therefore, when we moved forward, your commission decided to take that condition off, and you know, we're at now here, where we have a project now that is not appropriately to be zoned agricultural anymore. Use of an A1 zone land is now creating problem with the surrounding commercial development. Use of pesticides, use of a whole other projects and other things could hinder the public safety as part of the commercial development, and this little infill A1 zone land should not be zoned residential or agricultural anymore. The entire commercial area needs to be designated for the commercial use to make it consistent with the corners of that particular intersection. As indicated, the project we have consulted, staff has consulted with Regional Water Quality Control Board. Yes, the first step for water, they would like to have it on a shared system, is for the project applicant to reach out to the other systems in the area. But per Regional Water Quality Control Board, if they can't figure out an agreement to have that shared water well, they will be able to go through the process and have their own water well for the particular project site. So again, there is a requirement that they need to consult, and that's what we would like to have happen. But that is ultimately Regional Water Quality Control's determination on how that works specifically. Again, I can tell you that our Public Works Department has reviewed this closely, and I believe it's appropriate now for Mr. Josh Champlin to provide comments specifically related to any concerns regarding access to and from the site and where that drive approach should be.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Josh, you want to come up and say a few words?
Josh Champlin.
Can't just sit and enjoy the meeting.
Well, I was waiting for you to call me up, sir. I'm here to first answer any questions. It's just I'm just trying to give you answers to your questions. But let me just I will try to respond to some of the things I heard. Mr. Murphy kind of stole my thunder. We did come before this commission for this previous item. We did recommend what Caltrans recommended, which was to join these access points up. The commission decided to go another way. Let me start with response to, I think it was this July 1st, 2008 letter. It is recommended that the project obtain a shared driveway agreement. I still agree with that. Let me move to the March 24th, 2022 letter. So when Caltrans talks about access control in their letters, what they mean is Caltrans owns or they control certain amounts of property outside of the freeways, and this is considered access control on their part. We were trying to come into consensus with Caltrans prior to giving comments to the Planning Commission for this. We were unable to. We did receive comment on June 6th from David Deal with Caltrans, where he states that Caltrans has access control approximately 75 feet north of State Route 58. So Caltrans has control over access and 75 feet north of the off-ramp. So Mr. Murphy's correct when he says that while they may have recommendations of things we should do, it's up to the county to allow or disallow things. And so I just wanted to make that clear to this commission that these are recommendations by Caltrans, but it's up to this commission and the county of Kern to make those decisions. I guess my last point that I like to make is it sounds to me like some opposition would say that there's no driveway on this property that would be safe. That's what I'm inferring from this. There's no location on this property along Comanche that would be considered safe. And in that event, what I would say is if we can't allow access to this site, then what are we doing to this property? Are we essentially landlocking this property by not giving them any access? So that's kind of a bridge too far for me to try to make as the Director of Public Works. And so we want to work with this applicant to try to get them safe access. I do believe there's a way through that. And I do concede that the opposition, we have left it open-ended. But the reason we left it open-ended in the staff report was because we didn't have any recommendations from Caltrans. We didn't have anything back from them at that point. Well, now we do. Now we know where Caltrans' rights end and where our obligation begins. I do think there is an opportunity to make a safe situation here for this property owner to operate this business. Once again, I'm here for any questions that your commission might have.
Thank you, Mr. Champlin.
Don't leave. Unless you want to get your steps in. I mean, I understand that too. So Josh, can you talk to me a little bit about what the options are as far as access for this property? So what I'm hearing is that shared access is no longer an option based off of our last meeting in this area. And that the other option is to have a very condensed entryway in comparison to the other site per normal Public Works usual access points.
I would say that shared access is possible if the two property owners can still come together.
Okay.
But that would have to happen before, this was determined, here.
Okay.
Per Kern County development standards, we require 150-foot separation between center line to center line of our drive approaches. That's something that I still believe is a safe condition here. The way that this road is going to be constructed, it's going to be constructed to a very wide roadway that's essentially not going to be, majority of it's not going to be used as through lanes. So we essentially have quite a wide, what's considered a shoulder area on the side. So talking with my traffic engineer, we don't believe that putting a driveway of 150 feet south of the previously approved drive approach for this adjacent would provide a dangerous situation. We think it's more dangerous to leave it up there where it is right now, which is essentially right next to the other drive approach. So on the top of that, there's a drive approach on this site plan, and if you move immediately north of it, that's the access for the other truck stop. And so we think moving that southbound, south of 150 feet, would provide a safer option than having them right next to each other.
Okay, and I can't call you on integrity on this because it wasn't you. But I went back because I remember having vivid conversations about kind of the landlocking element and this access point. And so I went back and watched some of the video from last meeting, and your staff, as well as county attorney, made it very clear that they did not want to allow another access point on Comanche. And I'm a little flustered because now we potentially are adding another access point to have 3 access points off Comanche. Is that correct?
Well, we would remove that one up there. So I guess if you're saying there's one for the existing land use up on the corner, and then there would be the one for the flag lot, and then there would be a third. But remember, our initial recommendation was to join those two up, to give them joint access. That's gone now. And so we had to go back and we had to find a way. And that's what we looked for. We've tried to find a way through there to give it, to give access to this owner.
Okay. I think that's it for me for right now. Thank you.
I know this commission, as well as us as developers and realtors and the rest of the community, try to find best use of a property a lot of times. And I think we got a lot of stuff going on here. And my main concern is safety, number one, always. And even though I was not at this last meeting, I did go back, look at the videos, and I know you probably can't cover it, but there was somebody, and they stated something to the fact like, you have a 65-foot trailer that's coming down, and they're 45 miles an hour coming off the freeway, whatever, and trying to make a turn into multiple driveways, that there wouldn't be enough room, or they would not approve. And I think I remember something to the state that they said they would not, and this is from your department, would not approve that distance. Can you clarify that? And now you're telling us now that we want to clarify. I'm confused.
Well, I haven't watched the video, but I learned today upon arriving here that employee of mine, it was very contentious up here. What I can tell you is, from what I know, is Caltrans does not have the authority over the road beyond 75 feet north of the off-ramp. And that is a stop-controlled off-ramp too. So there's no rolling around that corner per the traffic traffic laws. And so any driver who comes up to that is required to come to a complete stop. So as far as what my employee said last time, I can't speak to that exactly, but Caltrans, they don't have the authority to stop.
This wasn't Caltrans, this was your department, sir.
I think you said that he alluded that Caltrans had to approve something.
No, Caltrans can only recommend.
Right, okay.
Your department is the one that's approving, and then your employee had stated that they would not approve, and I'm just getting clarification. Your employee stated this, now we're looking at something else. Like I said, I'm confused.
Okay.
I want you to clarify it for me.
Okay, I was misunderstood. I thought you meant Caltrans
no,
had
sir.
to approve. Okay. So when this, it sounds like my employee spoke out of turn.
Okay.
And what I'm telling you today is...
So you're not speaking out of turn now?
I'm
okay.
Trying to be forthcoming with you here.
Perfect.
We want to be good partners with Caltrans. I like to work with Caltrans. I have to go back and work with them when I leave here today. And in that concerted effort, we both wanted that shared access. We wanted to get that traffic as far away from the highway as possible. But when now that that's off the table, we went back to the drawing board and said, what can we accept? What can we deem safe? And so that's why answered Ms. Skidmore's question is we've looked at this and we still believe there is a safe alternative to this. But I think that was my employee speaking at the time is, hey, this is what we want because this is the safest. I agree. Shared access 300 feet away from that off-ramp is safer than maybe what we could put forward now. But I don't think there's a situation in which we could give access to this property that's still safe.
Commissioner Oliver as well, I just wanted to, from my understanding of the comment that was made before, that employee was referring to if it fell within Caltrans jurisdiction, they would not do it, is what that comment was referring to when it came to any access or things along those lines. It was not that this department would not do it. It was if it fell within the jurisdiction of where Caltrans had the authority, they would not issue that from that perspective.
All right, thank you. Don't go too far away, but thank you if we have any other questions. Yes.
I don't have any further questions for you, I don't think, Mr. Chamberlain. My question was, actually, maybe I do have one for you, sorry. I just want to make sure you got your steps. In terms of you do believe there's safe access there, does that involve negotiation with the current property owner to the north and to the east?
That's one option if they want to go back and discuss that.
So it's not completely off the table in the big scheme of things. It just wasn't
that's between the two property owners. But
Gotcha.
What we're saying in our recommendation, in our staff recommendation was that northern driveway on this property needs to be 150 feet south of the previously granted drive approach to the other development, and then that's something we can support.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. Additional questions or comments?
I have a question for staff regarding water. I was listening to a little bit of the conversation about kind of shared use of water, and if they don't identify being able to come to agreement with shared use, they could go to State Water Board. But then from there, if State Water Board denies, what happens?
No, I'm sorry, Commissioner Skidmore, the question was about just the existing water wells. So the state would like to stop permitting individual water wells all over the place. They would like to share them as much as possible. The same thing, they can't go through and say you can only do it, and if you can't get it, then you get no water and you'll never issue a well permit again or things along those lines. So there is a process by which, when they apply to try to get any approvals from the water agency or from the Regional Water Quality Control, they're gonna require them to reach out. I think it's 3 miles. They have to contact all property owners within 3 miles that have existing wells, and the onus is on them to work out to try to find an owner who is willing to go through that process and they can share that well. If that can't happen, they still have the option of then showing that evidence to Regional Water Quality Control Board, providing, hey, we tried, this is what the results were, X, Y, Z, and then the Regional Water Quality Control Board could allow them to create and drill a well and things along those lines for their water system if it got to that particular point. And that was one of the things that we continued the previous project for specifically, because a comment was brought up regarding that. And so my staff reached out to Regional Water Quality Control Board directly to make sure that if they got denied by anybody in the area, whether or not that meant the project could or could not go forward. Because again, we would not want to bring you a project that could be unbuildable if something else happened elsewhere. So the comments that we got back were, no, we prefer it. We want to encourage them to. We're going to do everything they can from the state to try to help that to happen. But if they can't make that agreement, that there is still a pathway forward for them to access the water for their particular project site.
Okay, and do they need to go through the Sustainable Groundwater Agency associated with the area?
And they have, and they got the same agreement that was in place about, hey, this is what your uses and this is how it would work, and the same agreement that the other commercial developments in the area was provided to staff.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I guess my next question, is to staff as well. And this has to do with, and I'm glad that she went through all the water. That took away about 5 of my questions, which is great. But in some of the setbacks that we have here, if you could kind of maybe, if you guys looked at these or whatever, because there's a lot of stuff you had, possible Caltrans setbacks that moves a lot of things in the property. You have this other beltway, the South Beltway setbacks. So like, have you taken really a good look at those, and can you explain that? What we need to do? Because I mean, you have a restaurant, you got a gas stations, you got lots of truck washes or whatever. You got a lot of stuff going on here.
Commissioner Oliver, through the chair. So we do look at various setbacks and things along those lines as part of our project approval. I would note that some of the comments that were provided talked about the internal and it's going to cause problems and things along those lines. That is not something that we evaluate. That is not something that the staff generally comments on to a developer and says, you know what, you should really change your internal access to go a different way. We worry about the roadways and the public roads that people go to and from the site. Once they get on the site, we do give a few comments every once in a while, just, hey, you may want to think about this. But we don't actively, with any developer that's proposing a commercial development, look internal to their site and say, you know what, instead of going right, go left, unless there's some sort of condition where it talked about, hey, you need to have shared access. I had one project where, actually had a very similar process where Caltrans said, hey, we would like that once you're in the development, that you can get across all the commercial developments without having to go back onto the road. So in a condition like that, yes, we would look at the internal access to make sure, yes, there was space so that travelers can go to and from, site to site and that aspect of it. But in terms of our internal review of how big the commercial development, I can tell you that it meets the requirements. We've reviewed our parking standards, we reviewed the setbacks, internal to everything, and staff is comfortable at this particular time. When they go through and they finally get all of their encroachment permits and everything, if the project applicant has to make a minor modification, then there's a process to then allow that to happen as well. Again, we look at the overall commercial use of development, what is generally proposed, and are you meeting the requirements of our development standards?
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question of the project applicant? Yeah, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So one of the conversations we keep having is about the shared access point and the two landowners communicating with one another. What is your perspective on communication with the other organization?
Well, what I can speak to is the communication that has come directly to our office, and the communication that I've had with our client directly. I would say that for the former bullet point, there hasn't been any conversation in our office directly with our staff regarding the joint easement outside of the public agencies. Mr. Murphy and I have actually spoken about it directly, and Mr. Tolentino and I have spoken about it directly. However, we have not spoken to anybody outside of that particular group. In regards to the applicant and the development to the north and to the east, I would have to, unfortunately, probably claim some level of ignorance. I'm sure that there's been some correspondence there, but the best I can tell and read the tea leaves on this, they don't seem to be playing very nicely together.
Okay.
So it was our recommendation that that was the pathway that this should take. Obviously, the conversation is centered around safety, and there's some real tangible bullet points that can be made for that argument for sure. I'm having a hard time seeing how, understanding the gross count of access points convolutes the area in particular, but I'm having a hard time seeing how one access point blows the process up 35 feet to the north, everything's hunky-dory. So the math doesn't seem to play out, and the traffic study seemed to address that when it was generated and distributed to all of those involved, which they were. So I think at this point in time, the solution is sitting in front of everybody, and it really just needs to, there's some commonality and some common ground that needs to come into play. I know that that's a difficult thing to agree upon when you're talking about business entities, and I understand that. My position on this was that we completed the traffic study and we submitted that through the appropriate avenues, and we did the traffic study as a commingled analysis under the guise of a commingled entry point.
And so what I'm hearing you say is who you represent, there has been no communication between your office or who you represent and the landowner to the north and east, correct?
We have not taken part in the negotiations of that joint easement agreement, ma'am, no.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Skidmore, if I may offer just one more thing to help you guys before you make your final deliberation on some of this stuff. Again, from the information that's provided to staff, the additional property owners are really not interested in sharing access. The traffic studies were prepared. The entire process tried to go through a shared access requirement. We wanted to condition the project to the east, northeast, to have a condition that says, hey, you got to share that access. How that ultimately worked was going to be fine, and we were comfortable with it. That was the direction we were wanting to go. It was our understanding, based on communication that we had received, whether it's competition, whether it's a lot of different things, not interested in sharing the access. We've already now, or your commission and the board too, has approved a development without that requirement. The concern that staff has, we would still like to see if these two entities can come up to with an agreement, because we do believe that shared access is the most appropriate approach. What staff is having a problem with is not requiring the development. When we knew this project was coming, I even recommended and said, if this is such a concern for you guys, let's hold off consideration of both projects because they're coming at the same time. They're right behind each other. And the commission said, you know what? Nope, we're going to deal with the other project site later. We want to approve the project already, and we're not going to require the shared access, despite staff's recommendation to do so. So staff has an issue now saying this project shouldn't be approved, or the zone change and general plan shouldn't be approved, knowing that we're now requiring him, or this applicant, to go above and beyond to kind of figure out a shared access with the property to the north. So again, I do believe, my personal opinion, it is in everyone's best interest to have a shared access. Clearly, we have applicants that have now come to a meeting together. They've seen each other. They know this is a big concern. Maybe they will come to an agreement, maybe they won't. If your commission believes that additional time is needed for them to try to work that out and you're not comfortable making a recommendation or a decision today, that's fine too. You can always recommend a continuance and see if that happens. The biggest issue for staff, though, is to deny a project based on not having that when we do believe there is an access available. Is it the best? No, it's probably not the best, but we do believe it's one that can address the concerns. But again, our concern would be to place a requirement on this project when you were not willing to place that same requirement on the project to the north. That is the part that staff has the concern, and that is why staff is working harder with Caltrans to make sure that, hey, do we have the best option? No, but we have one that it still works based on the characteristics of the site and everything along those lines. So my recommendation to your commission would be, if you do want to believe that maybe some of this can get worked out still, having gone through this conversation, knowing what this is, You can always recommend a continuance. If you believe that, hey, that can still get worked out, this is a recommendation, the project's got to go to the board still, where we'll have a similar conversation. You can make a recommendation and see what happens as it goes to the board. Or you can deny it and believe that it's not compatible with the surrounding area. Again, staff's opinion is the ag is actually least compatible with the adjacent commercial because of uses that are allowed on an ag, and we do believe that commercial at this entire intersection and the entire development is the most appropriate. So those are some of the options. I don't want to limit or kind of provide a caveat, but those are, as we've gone through this discussion, hearing the testimony, I believe the three main options that are viable to your commission. Again, you could also put a condition on this project that says you can only get access through a shared agreement. If you're asking staff's opinion, based on what I said before, I believe that's an inappropriate condition because you were not willing to put it on the property to the north. So I would not be recommending that you include that condition as any part of a project approval for this project site.
So, Mr. Murphy, I disagree is probably not the right word, but I remember from the last conversation, we had a lot of debate around who has to offer up shared access at what time. And my recollection of our commission deliberation was that it seemed unfair to require shared access for the applicant that was before us when the other applicant was not present. They weren't willing to speak up for their project on sharing access. And that if this project, the one we're talking about tonight, comes forward, then yes, they should be the ones having to go to the applicant that has already been approved to have shared access. And I stand firmly behind that because I was one of the ones very vocal about it. Because it seems unfair to require the first applicant who had offered up in their public hearing willingness to talk with the other applicant and the other project. And now we're saying it's unfair because we didn't put it on them, and now we can't put it on this project. I don't see how we can't put that requirement on this project moving forward.
So again, if your commission decides to do that, I can tell you I have written correspondence from the owner that says they will not provide shared access. So, I mean, and we discussed that when the first project was going forward. So again, that's the part where, we're trying to kind of go through this whole aspect of it.
Ms. Burrow, would you like to make a comment about the communication?
Yes, thank you. First, I want to say something. When it comes to general plan zone change, it's the privy of you to decide if it's acceptable or not. Is it the best use of the property? And we are surrounded by ag. 360 degrees, we are surrounded by ag out there. So this 4.5 acres in front of us actually does go with the rest of the area. And our project, we were here, and I agree with everything Lauren had to say. It's our private property, and it's up to 2 private property owners to discuss shared access. That project's already been moved forward. It's done. We've moved on. And we don't know if somebody's going to come tomorrow, the next day, or 2 months, or 3 months, or 6 months down the line and make a project happen or not. And when we do a project, we do it based on what we see at the moment, not what somebody might do in the future, and I'm going to save a piece of access for them, and they're not communicating with us, and they're not here at the board meeting. So obviously, for us, we feel like at this point, we follow every condition that's put on us. We don't get special consideration for environmental review. We don't get to say, hey, we're going to change your zoning and then you can figure out access later. Never had that happen. That's actually quite a precedent, which I'd love to have in future projects going forward if that does hold true today. So I think there's a lot of issues that we can discuss and bring back and forth. And I don't think anybody can speak to a conversation that's between 2 property owners. That's between us, and we know what we've negotiated, what we've talked about. And I don't think anything states it more that if your project is on an agenda to be discussed and you are not here, I think there's nothing else you need to know more than that. So, and that's already occurred and happened, and we're here today to tell you, and I'm sure that staff doesn't care about flow, but we do. And that matters to us. We understand how that affects customers and their shopping experience and makes a project viable or not. And I can tell you right now that if this project goes through, it's gonna hurt them and us. And that's the end of the story. And again, your commission, we're here today because this is all under your discretion. We have property, and sometimes the zone change doesn't happen. But we understand, we're developers, we know how that works. But it's under your discretion. You have to decide what's the best beneficial use for this property. And I will tell you that we are already providing these services that are much needed. Because if you look around the area, we're surrounded by ag. And we have more than enough commercial there to support the services that are needed by residents. And so again, we would ask the commission to use your best judgment and understand that as developers, we have enough knowledge when it comes to development to know what's successful and what's not successful. And it's not about competition. We would love to have any business that would complement our project. As developers, we have locations ourselves where we have other competition comes in because we know it brings up the value of that area. But we also know when it hinders the value of that area. So again, I would please request your board to deny this project, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Mr. Oliver? Saw you moving there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to go ahead with what Commissioner Skidmore says. I wasn't here at the time, but I went back and I looked at some of the videos and I saw some of that, and I do agree wholeheartedly in regards to some of that. You cannot hold up an initial project that comes before the commission and say, well, we're going to put this little caveat because maybe something's not going to get developed down the road. You can't do that. In regards to the issues that, yeah, this little piece of ag property or whatever is going to hinder, I know the area extremely out there. I'm almost out there every week, not at this particular site, but in that area. There's ag everywhere there. I always come back to what I'm always saying, that what is the best use of a property. I'm not saying I don't want this gentleman to develop this. I do. I think it'd be great. And we want more commerce. We want more development in our area. I just don't know as it's set here if this is the right best use of the property as it stands right now. I'm just confused on a lot of things, and I'd have a hard time really consciously moving forward on this. So I don't know what the applicant would want to do, but that's all. I just wanted to make a comment on that. So, is it, Mr. Chair?
Either of you ready to make a motion?
I'll make just a quick clarifying comment on my comments. What I was stating about the conflict of the shared access was not specific to a future project that we didn't know about. It was specific to knowing the intent of the project, having identified that the property owners could communicate, that have attempted to communicate. That is different to me than an unknown project. If it was an unknown project, I would have probably said, we should require shared access for whomever comes down the road. But because we knew the intent of the property, and because the property owners had known about each other, to me, that's where the difference is. So I just wanted to clarify that. I think just to get the move on, I will motion to deny staff's recommendation and deny the project.
At this time, right now, just taking a look, there's too many ifs, which ways, and stuff like that. I'm going to go ahead and second on that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
Two yes, one no, one abstain. One.
So
I'm willing to bet that was just a little bit of a.
Oh, well, the abstain might be, but assuming it's 2-1, Well, actually, let's reconfirm the vote because I need to touch base about what happens if it's 2-1. So actually, please redo the vote.
Let's do, so we're voting for deny the project. Yes would be to deny the project,
Okay.
correct?
Correct.
My apologies, Chair.
No problem. One more time, if you don't mind, please.
Three yes, one abstain, one absent. Motion carries.
Fat fingered now.
Okay. This brings us to our final and favorite agenda item, which is adjournment.
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Land us there.